Okay, in 4.2 we learned about solving inequalities using addition and subtraction. And today we're going to do in 4.1 we did addition and subtraction. 4.2 we're solving inequalities using multiplication and division. It works the exact same way as solving equations using multiplication and division, except for there's a couple little tricks. Just to remind you though, we want to make sure that we remember that if we have these symbols, okay, if there's a line underneath, we're going to have a solid dot, and if there's not a line underneath, we're going to have an open dot. That's just when we go to graph it. Okay, looking at our inequality, remember back to when you solved equations using multiplication and division, you would have done x over 4 and it would have had an equal sign to 5. And we talked about what the relationship was between the x and the 4. And we said that x was being divided by 4. Well, in order to get x by itself, to isolate x, we have to do the inverse operation. Since x is being divided by 4, the inverse operation of division is multiplication. So we are going to multiply by 4 on both sides. Well, we're going to do the exact same thing here. So I'm going to rewrite it. X over 4 is less than 5. Okay? Same thing, we want to get x by itself, so we're going to multiply by 4, and what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. Okay, these two 4s are going to cancel out. We're going to be bringing our x down, keep our sign, so x is less than 5 times 4, which is 20. Now, since my sign, if you look over to the right, since my sign is this one, I know that it's an open circle. It does not have a line underneath. So it's going to be an open circle at 20. So I'm going to take my little tool and I'm going to place this on the 20. And now x has to be less than 20. So if x has to be less than 20, and you have to really just think to yourself, what's less than 20? Well, 19's less than 20, 15's less than 20, and that helps you to draw your arrow and to know which way to draw it on the number line. Also, like I always tell my students, if your variable is on this side, use this as kind of a little cheat sheet or a little cheat trick to help you know whether or not you are actually drawing your arrow in the right direction. Okay, let's go to the next one. So again, we have x over negative 6 is less than 7. And this is where you're going to see one of the little tricks come into play. Again, we need to, x is being divided by negative 6. We want to do the inverse operation, which is multiplication. So we're going to multiply by negative 6 on both sides. Again, these two are going to cancel out, leaving the x. Now, if you look over here, you have a positive times a negative. Anytime you're multiplying and the signs are different, we're going to end up with a negative number. 7 times 6 then is 42. Now here's the thing. Anytime that you multiply or divide by a negative, you're going to take this sign and you're going to flip it around. So, again, since this is, let me just say that one more time. Anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you're going to flip the sign around. Now, since we don't have a line underneath, again, that's going to mean that we need an open circle. So our open circle is going to be at negative 42. So I'm going to take this over to negative 42. Oops. And going to grab my arrow. And this says x has to be greater than negative 42. Well, when I look at my number line, anything to the left gets smaller. So I know that if I draw my arrow in this direction, I know that everything has to be greater than negative 42. And negative 1 is greater than negative 42. Let's try another one. Okay. So we have negative 3x is greater than 24. And here our relationship is that negative 3 is being multiplied by x. Okay, so we could put it like this. We don't have to, but it's being multiplied by x. So the inverse operation would be to divide it by negative 3. And we're going to do the same on the other side. Now these two cancel out, and we're left with just x. So I'm going to bring that down. Now, anytime you have a positive divided by a negative, the opposite signs mean that we're going to have a negative over here. 24 divided by 3 gives us 8. And same thing, since we divided by a negative number, we're going to take this sign and flip it around. Now, since it doesn't have the line underneath, I still need to use an open circle. And I'm going to put that at negative 8. So it's going to sit right here. Now remember my little trick. X has to be less than negative 8. So I always tell my students, if you keep your variable on this side of the equation, you can draw your little line, it becomes an arrow, and that helps you to know which way to draw this arrow. And then you'll always be right.